Alright, so here I'm going to show you how you can create a bar and bar chart, just to simply show how individual players aren't lining up with specific goals. So I'm going to go to this dashboard here just on strikeout to walk ratio, and this is just a random example, but we're just going to focus here on the right, but creating a bar and bar chart where we can see which players are getting a 4-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. So you'll see up here, this line here shows the number of strikeouts. This small bar here is the number of walks, and then it is shaded based off of their strikeout to walk ratio. So you'll see up here that the darker the orange, then the higher their strikeout to walk ratio. And for players that don't reach the 4-to-1, it gets a blue hue here, and then they also get a reference line to show what they need to get to and how many strikeouts they need to get there. So I'm going to show how we can create this simple bar and bar chart. So what I did here is I've already created a few calculated fields to make this a little quicker. So I have number of strikeouts, number of walks. So I'll just show you the calculation here, and the calculation is similar to the one I used in the last video with a couple functions there. And then obviously strikeout to walk ratio is just number of strikeouts divided by number of walks. So what I'll do here is I'll just put player name in the field right here. So we have about 15 or so pitchers, and then I'm going to put number of strikeouts and number of walks in the field. So next thing I'm going to do is I want to combine these two together. So I'm going to right click number of walks and click on dual axis. So what it did here is it automatically turned this into we want to change this into a bar chart. So the first thing we'll do is on the marks card here on the left, under all, we'll change it from automatic, because obviously this is a scatter plot right here, and then we want to change this to a bar chart. But obviously we see here at the bottom we have number of strikeouts and number of walks, and the axis is completely different. So at 65 strikeouts, it's the same as at 15 walks. So we want to synchronize the two. So we'll right click this and we'll hit synchronize axis. So obviously we're going to see a lot more strikeouts generally for pitchers and walks. And now these two line up. So I'll hide this header here because the axis is the same. So what we want to do is get the number of strikeouts bar to be color coded based off of what their strikeout to walk ratio is. So what I'll do is I'll remove the color from number of strikeouts here. So now we have just a neutral gray color. So the next thing I'll do is take K to walk ratio here, and I'll drag it to the color marks card. And what Tableau normally does is uses this light blue to dark blue. And for this example, we're obviously trying to identify guys who aren't meeting a specific goal. So what we want to do is change this color. So what we'll do is edit colors, and then the palette here, we want to change it to diverging. So we want, if the goal is 4, that to be a more neutral color. I normally use the orange to blue. So I'll hit that there. And then obviously we want to reverse this. So I'll hit reverse here on the left, and then obviously change the range. So obviously the center, we want it to be 4. And then we want it even on both sides. So I'll just change this to 1. And then end here, we'll change that to 7. So now 1 to 7, 4 is in the middle, and then we'll see the change there. Obviously, we don't want number of walks to be orange, so we have to change that too. So what I'll do is go to the top here, edit colors. I'll click on number of walks, and then I'll make this one a little bit more obvious. I'll just click on black, and then there we go. So this is the first start to the bar and bar chart. Here on the left, we have options of the color, size, label, detail, and tooltip. So for the walks bar, we want to change the size. So we can either make it bigger, which obviously we don't want. We want to make it a little bit smaller. So that is how we can identify the number of strikeouts here, and then see the number of walks, and then the color based off of the strikeout to walk ratio. And then I'll make this a little bit bigger here. So this is what we have. Next thing we want to do, and I like to have the names on the side here, because what we can also do is just, obviously you can reverse, change it to this. I like to keep it to this, kind of this format here, and I can hit this sorting button, so I can go from ascending to descending. But I want to keep it here because I can see that Shane Bieber, Jacob deGrom have the highest number of strikeouts, but someone like Yu Darvish may not have the highest number of strikeouts, but he has one of the best strikeout to walk ratios, and so does Kyle Hendricks and Clayton Kershaw. But now what we want to do is create a reference line that will only be shown if a player doesn't meet the 4-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. So obviously that includes Lucas Giolito, Lance Lynn, Corbin Burnes, Zach Gallen. But we just want to put a reference line for them and not for Bieber, deGrom, and Bauer, because that'll just add way too much noise and kind of a distraction to what we're trying to identify here. So what I'm going to do is I want to create a calculated field, and then apply that to a reference line when we put it in the field. So I'm going to go up here, create calculated field, and I'll just do total strikeouts needed, 4, 4, 2, 1. And then it's going to be if number of strikeouts is less than or equal to number of walks times 4, then number of walks times 4. And so the saying is total number of strikeouts. If total number of strikeouts is less than number of walks times 4, which would give us the 4-to-1 ratio, then give us the number of walks times 4. So it's giving us the value of what strikeouts should be to get to that goal. So I'll hit OK. And then what we need to do is to apply it to the reference line, this needs to be in the field. So I'll just add that just to detail. Then I'll go to Analytics, Reference Line, and add this to number of strikeouts. And obviously I have the option of table, pane, and cell. The pane is irrelevant because there's no subcategories within this. But if I were to put it to table, it would just go for the full table here. So it would just be one reference line. But we want it for each individual pitcher. So we'll hit per cell. Under value, we want to change this to total strikeouts needed for 4-to-1. And then you'll see here that now some guys have reference lines and some guys do not. Label, I'm just going to put none because what I'm going to also do is add a label for the additional strikeouts they need to get to that goal. So I'll hit none here. I want to fill below just to make it easier for them to see who that reference line applies to. So I'll just hit something like that. So now we have number of strikeouts, number of walks, and then a reference line needed to get to 4-to-1. So for someone like Lance Lynn, he needs to get to 100. But what we also want to answer is how many additional strikeouts he needs to get to that. So what we'll do is we'll create another calculated field. Additional strikeouts needed. So this one is going to be a little similar on if number of strikeouts is less than or equal to number of walks times 4, then number of walks. And I'm going to put this in parentheses, number of walks times 4 minus number of strikeouts. And so that'll give us how many additional strikeouts he needs to get to that point. Calculation is valid, hit OK. So then what we'll do is add this to label, the number of strikeouts. So now we know, Lance Lynn needs 11, Corbin Burnes needs 8, Gallen needs 18, but then it doesn't apply to any of the guys who have already reached that. Let me see here. What else could there be? And obviously, from a pitching standpoint, Dallas Keuchel isn't a strikeout pitcher, so you may not necessarily want that. So what we can also do is apply a reference, set individual goals for each player. So we can use Dallas Keuchel, for example. I'll go to this next sheet here. Actually, this is what I'll do. I'll use this as an example. Let's just say Shane Bieber, his current, on this tooltip here, says his K to walk ratio is 5.81. And let's just say that at the beginning of the season, his goal was to get a 7-to-1 ratio for whatever that might be. It could be, throwing specific pitches and 0-2 counts, better utilizing pitches that get chases out of the zone. He thinks that could have been a reasonable goal. So what I can do is create a calculated field for a specific player. So what I'm going to do is create a calculated field if player name equals Shane Bieber, then number of walks times 7. End. So you'll see here is this calculation still contains errors. You click here. Cannot mix aggregate and non-aggregate comparisons because number of walks is an aggregate and player name is just, obviously it's not an aggregation of everything, so you'll just add a random. I'll just add this function to it. Doesn't actually do anything, so I'll hit Shane Bieber goal. Hit OK. And I'll do analytics, reference, hold on a second. This needs to be added to the field, obviously. So I'll add this to detail, reference line. I'll add this to number of strikeouts, and then use that calculation for Shane Bieber. And obviously per cell, I'll just do the value, and then fill below like I did for the last one. So now we just have, Shane Bieber has his goal based off the number of walks he has is he gets to 147, and like I showed earlier, you can add a calculation to get the number of strikeouts, additional strikeouts needed that I've shown before. So that's how we can add a reference line just for individual players, because obviously you have 20 pitchers, 30, 50, however many it is. Not every single pitcher is going to have the same goal. And obviously there could be some generic ones that you have that you can apply this to. But for the most part, each individual player is going to have something different. So this is how you create a bar chart, show the number of strikeouts, number of walks they have, and where they line up to the goals they want to reach, and how to use a color code to identify pitchers who have or haven't reached the goal that you created.